What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into disaster after 4 friends who were all drunk left the bar in the city without a designated driver. Designate a driver. Don't drink and drive.
This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 21st day of January in the year 2025. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting. Now here's what we're tracking tonight. Warning that Guyana could find itself plagued by the Dutch disease in the absence of the prudent management of its resources, the leader of the Alliance for Change, Nigel Hughes, is calling on the government to reconsider the $1.3 trillion budget in consultation with the opposition. In an interview with News Source, Mr. Hughes said the budget is lopsided, focusing heavily on public infrastructure while offering a pittance to the poor and vulnerable.
We have a cost of living crisis. We have people who are struggling to make ends meet. And we have a lack of capacity in infrastructural projects. So the government should really call in the parliamentary parties and say, let us try and first of all establish what our priorities will be. Those priorities should include the people first and then infrastructure, and begin to structure a budget based on those priorities.
In making his case, Mr. Hughes said the government proposes to spend $9 billion on cost of living measures, while allocating $209 billion for roads and bridges, when the country has long exceeded its capacity to deliver in the sector.
This government has chosen to put almost $1 billion into infrastructure, and it's only put $9 billion Guyana dollars into the reduction of the cost of living. This is a big business budget. There are no measures not only for those at the lower end of the scale, there are no measures in the medium level of the scale. The people at the bottom of the employment level have got virtually no relief. None. And this $100,000 that they're getting as a grant, it's a pittance. They can't invest it. They can't start a business with it. Essentially, it is only going to be there to buy retail goods.
He said billions of dollars is being pumped into infrastructure projects without a proper plan in place, fearing that to continue along this path could head right into the Dutch disease. The Dutch disease refers to the negative consequences of a sudden increase in a country's wealth or income.
In the absence of an overall national infrastructural policy and program, you're just spending money as projects come up. So that is a recipe for a disaster. We are heading straight into Dutch disease.
According to the AFC leader, it is time to balance the budget. He said the budget is top-heavy on measures to make the rich even more outrageously rich, while keeping the poor continuously dependent on handouts. He said the budget needs a complete rethink and overhaul, and not just amending. Hughes said the country cannot in 2025 allow this level of transfer of wealth to a small, already ridiculously wealthy set of friends, family, favorites, and flatters, while the rest of the society looks on and struggles with a high cost of living. It was also explained that while the country's economy grew by 43.6%, primarily due to the booming oil sector, some traditional sectors such as agriculture and gold continue to underperform.
Your non-oil economy is what is going to generate the foreign currency to pay off your loans and other foreign debt. The oil money that comes in goes into the National Resource Fund. We ought to have long-term plans for that. What we should have heard from the Minister of Finance was a separate report that compares the income that we have been getting from the non-oil economy against our expenditures, and that's all our expenditures, that figure is actually going to be frightening because the deficit is going to be even worse.
In 2024, the central government recorded a deficit of more than $376 billion, or 7.3% of the GDP. Overall, central government's expenditure stood at $1.2 trillion last year, exceeding $784.6 billion in revenue earnings. More news coming up in just a moment.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look, you know the one, or one touch, even one word. It can start with one step, or one promise, one thrill, one first time, one deep breath, one leap of faith, one day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
Your own home is so much more than just four walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
Honey, what are you doing? Let's cash out. Let's cash out.
Shop $5,000 or more at any Massey stores for a chance to win a 2024 Nissan Qashqai Sense and $100,000 every 2 weeks with Massey Stores Christmas Jackpot Promotion.
Welcome to Dinner Under the Stars. Indulge in a culinary feast prepared by our talented chefs, featuring locally sourced ingredients and exquisite flavors. Every bite will take you on a culinary journey, from unforgettable starters to delectable desserts. Relax to the soothing sounds of the stylistics and blue magic as the stars twinkle above, creating the perfect ambience for a romantic evening or memorable gathering. Join us for Dinner Under the Stars. Reserve your table today and create memories that will last a lifetime.
Well, Guyana's public debt skyrocketed last year, mounting to $5.993 billion US dollars, the finance minister, Dr. Ashley Singh, has revealed. During his budget presentation last Friday, Dr. Singh explained that external public and publicly guaranteed debt reached $2.2 billion US dollars by the end of 2024, while domestic PPG debt rose to $3.7 billion US dollars. At mid-year, the country's external public and publicly guaranteed debt stood at $1.9 billion US dollars, and domestic public and publicly guaranteed debt was recorded at $3.1 billion US dollars during the same period.
Notwithstanding our transformative development agenda, our debt has remained sustainable. Government remains development financing within prudent cost and risk parameters. Against this backdrop, Guyana's total public and publicly guaranteed debt amounted to $5.993 billion US dollars at the end of 2024, mainly on account of net inflows from our external and domestic creditors.
But despite the increase in borrowing and spending last year, the finance minister said that over the last 4 years, the ratio of the total public and publicly guaranteed debt to GDP fell by more than 20 percentage points.
This provides clear indication of a marked indication in Guyana's capacity to maintain public debt into the future without the need for fiscal adjustment, and places Guyana in the position of having one of the lowest debt to GDP ratios worldwide. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the latest available statistics rank Guyana as having the second lowest debt to GDP ratio within the Western Hemisphere in 2024.
Dr. Ashley Singh explained that debts from external creditors in 2024 were mainly associated with major infrastructural works.
Total debt service payments increased to $196.1 million in 2024 from $177.5 million in 2023. External debt service rose to $124.9 million from $101 million, mainly on account of increased payments to bilateral and multilateral creditors. Significantly, Mr. Speaker, domestic debt service contracted to $71.2 million in 2024 from $76.1 million in 2023.
He said the decline was due to the completion of repayments under a government-guaranteed bond issued by the National Industrial and Commercial Investments Limited (NISIL) back in 2018, but transferred to the books of central government in 2020. While a number of government agencies have been working together in the ongoing efforts to tackle drug trafficking and gun smuggling here in Guyana, that work is expected to continue and be aided by the expansion of the container scanner system at the wharves that facilitate international shipments. Appearing on a DPI program, Budget in Focus, on Monday, Minister of Home Affairs Robeson Ben noted the impact that transnational crime could have on the country and the efforts being undertaken by local law enforcement to arrest the situation. With the security sector set to receive billions of dollars in this year's budgetary allocations, Minister Ben said the police will be working closer with the Customs Department to facilitate more security at the wharves and shipment facilities.
With the GRA and others, we are looking forward to putting in more scanning, particularly for goods which are coming into Guyana, and also to maintain the effort for the export, the scanning of containers, and for incoming barrels and boxes and containers too, to get on top on the question of gun smuggling, of cocaine. You may recall that we have the big cocaine bust in the northwest region, which I think put a significant dent in the type of crime, the smuggling of drugs through Guyana or over Guyana or even through its maritime space. That a significant dent was made in respect of the drug bust in the northwest. Not to mention to the police.
The Home Affairs Minister also noted that there will be collaboration with international agencies and partners to facilitate more training for local security personnel in the area of fighting transnational crime. He said Guyana has found itself falling victim to the scourge of transnational crime. Ben admitted that local agencies are not at the level that they need to be in terms of resources to effectively tackle transnational organized crime. However, he noted that investments in training and in the procurement of equipment have been aiding the efforts. He highlighted the recent purchase of new advanced equipment for the National Forensic Laboratory that the government believes will play a key role in unraveling forensic evidence. Outraged over the decision by the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission to rule against the introduction of biometrics for this year's elections, the Working People's Alliance today called for mass demonstrations to have that decision reversed. The WPA said the decision is a fatal blow against free, fair and credible elections in Guyana and must be rejected by the opposition. Executive member of the WPA, Takuma Ogunsi, said the joint opposition must aggressively mobilize public opinion and action to pressure the Elections Commission to reverse that decision, noting that what is at stake is more than just routine elections.
The WPA wished to urge our colleagues in the joint opposition and the masses of opposition supporters that this is a serious matter and that we have to draw the line in the sand on this matter. And we believe that it is not a gone conclusion that there will be no biometrics. We believe that the fate of biometric lies in the ability of the opposition and their supporters to give the appropriate and proper response by mass protests in the streets to make the point that we have drawn our feet in the sand on this matter.
And co-leader of the WPA, Dr. David Hines, said while the Elections Commission chair opined that there is no law which prevents GCOM from using biometrics at the elections, it is unacceptable for her to decide against the use of enhanced biometrics due to the lack of sufficient time to implement it.
And the GCOM chair cannot drag our feet. For 4 years, this matter has been on the agenda for 4 years. You wait until a few months before the election, and then you make a ruling, and then say, I don't have time. Why you couldn't make your ruling in 2021, which would have given you enough time to do the things that she has tabulated? WPA is saying very clearly, this situation that we have found ourselves in is the GCOM chair must be blamed.
He warned that to head into an election with almost half of the population disgruntled is a recipe for disaster.
We feel that we have now reached a point where the very fabric of the nation is being threatened. WPA wishes to say very, very clearly, if you go to this election in 2025 without the demands of half of the electorate being met, or you force them to go to an election in which they are not satisfied with the rules, you are playing with trouble. So our first appeal is to the government.
Dr. Hines said the Elections Commission must immediately begin the process of amassing the necessary resources that are needed for speedy implementation of biometrics during the course of this year's elections. He said the remit of GCOM is to ultimately conduct elections that satisfy the tests of free and fair elections and free from fear and intimidation. The Elections Commission chair, retired Justice Claudette Singh, in arriving at her decision, said introducing a system of biometric identification of voters digitally as a mandatory or only means of identification would impose an additional requirement for voters and would therefore be unconstitutional. She also said there is not enough time to implement biometrics ahead of the elections to be held this year. The opposition parties have been pressing for the implementation of biometrics for more than 2 years.
Welcome to Dinner Under the Stars. Indulge in a culinary feast prepared by our talented chefs, featuring locally sourced ingredients and exquisite flavors. Every bite will take you on a culinary journey, from unforgettable starters to delectable desserts. Relax to the soothing sounds of the stylistics and blue magic as the stars twinkle above, creating the perfect ambience for a romantic evening or memorable gathering. Join us for Dinner Under the Stars. Reserve your table today and create memories that will last a lifetime.
Your own home is so much more than just 4 walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Ready to up your game. Ready to up your game. Win big with over 60 epic prizes. A brand new PS5, Nintendo Switch, iPhone 16 Pro Max, Apple smartwatch, and the hottest earbuds from Apple and Samsung. Plus, we are giving away thousands in phone credit and a whole year supply of Buster or Turbo Energy drink. Here's how. Buy any Buster or Turbo Energy drink, find the code starting with BB and enter online or on WhatsApp. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Turbo_Caribbean or Buster Guyana for all the details. Don't just play, up your game with Buster and Turbo Energy.
In extending best wishes and congratulations to newly inaugurated U.S. President Donald Trump, President Irfan Ali has indicated Guyana's readiness to work closely with the new United States government. In a statement to the U.S. President, President Ali said, "The government of Guyana looks forward to working closely with you and your administration to forge stronger ties between our two nations in the years ahead." Guyana and the U.S. have shared diplomatic ties for more than 55 years and have worked together in a number of critical areas, including trade and security, education and infrastructure development, and health. Guyana has always had the U.S. as a close ally in its ongoing border controversy with Venezuela, and the U.S. has always made known its support of Guyana. With the discovery of oil and the start of oil production, with U.S. oil giant ExxonMobil at the helm, new doors of trade and economic cooperation have opened up between Guyana and the United States. In July, at the U.S. independence celebrations here in Guyana, the U.S. Ambassador Nicole D. Theriot noted that trade of U.S. goods with Guyana has surpassed $4.6 billion and that there are now more than 100 U.S. companies operating in Guyana. It was noted that the level of trade and the partnership between the two countries will only grow. President Irfan Ali came to power back in 2020, just months before President Trump lost his re-election bid. Within weeks of the new Irfan Ali-led administration, the then U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo arrived in Guyana to sign a number of agreements to deepen ties and cooperation with Guyana. The then U.S. Secretary of State would later become a critic of President Trump, and he has since fallen out of favor of the U.S. president. Pompeo has not been given any key role in the new U.S. administration, but continues to enjoy close ties with Guyana, visiting Guyana twice in the past year alone in his private capacity to engage the Guyana government. It was under Trump's presidency and with Pompeo at the U.S. State Department that pressure was mounted on the APNU-AFC government to concede defeat at the 2020 elections and make way for the PPP administration after the post-election controversy and accusations of electoral fraud. Ironically, Donald Trump never conceded defeat at his own 2020 elections and made accusations of rigging and electoral fraud as he was ousted from government after his first term amid violent protests by his supporters. Since taking office yesterday as the 47th president of the U.S., Trump has signed several executive orders, including one to end birthright citizenship, another to clamp down on illegal immigration, and a third to withdraw from the World Health Organization. He has also signed the executive orders to withdraw from the Paris Climate Change Agreement and to pardon those supporters who were convicted and jailed for the violent protests that enveloped the U.S. Capitol in January of 2021 as he ended his first term in office. The University of Guyana has obtained universal institutional accreditation for the first time in its 62-year history. While several programs at the university have enjoyed individual program accreditation for specific disciplines, this is the first time that the University of Guyana has applied for and received universal institutional accreditation. Chief Executive Officer of the National Accreditation Council, Dr. Marcel Hudson, noted that a team of international evaluators spent 2 weeks in Guyana to get first-hand knowledge of the university's operations. The team awarded the University of Guyana 97% of the total score for meeting or excelling in 16.5 of the 17 standards. Those include governance and administration, teaching and learning, readiness for change, quality enhancement, and mission and vision.
As we heard before, accreditation is not merely a label of certificate. You have a certificate and so you're happy about that. It is a robust, thorough process that affirms an institution's capacity to provide education that meets, and not only meets, but exceeds national and international standards.
Meanwhile, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Academic Engagement, Professor Emmanuel Cummings, said the accreditation will set the stage for the University of Guyana to be more attractive to prospective students, who will now see it as an indicator of quality and value. He said it will also enhance the global recognition of the university and its degrees, making it easier for students to transfer credits or pursue further studies internationally.
Accreditation is an important process of continuous improvement that involves undergoing a thorough evaluation that focuses on quality standards that help to strengthen the delivery of tertiary education. What does accreditation mean to the University of Guyana? It also provides an avenue for prospective students in identifying acceptable institutions.
And UG's Vice Chancellor, Professor Paloma Mohammed, said the university in recent years has been making positive strides, and the accreditation forms part of a list of successes that the University of Guyana has achieved recently. She noted that the university has risen in international rankings by over 3,000 places in the past 4 years due to the collaborative efforts of stakeholders. Education Minister Priya Manak Chan, in her remarks, spoke of the importance of the university in the Guyanese society and charged those in the management of the institution to ensure that value for money plays a critical factor of the university's endeavors. The government has returned the university to being free of tuition fees. The Guyana Police Force's Office of Professional Responsibility and the Police Complaints Authority are leading the investigations into the police shooting deaths of 2 men at Maikoni last week. One of the men shot dead by the police was Roger Pierre, who was believed to be of an unsung minor and had reportedly attacked a number of persons with a knife. The other man shot dead by the police was identified as 68-year-old Frederick Williams, who was attempting to subdue the other man in the presence of the police. A post-mortem examination of the bodies of the 2 men ruled that they both died from multiple gunshot injuries. The police reportedly opened fire on the 2 men as the older one was trying to subdue the other one since he knew him. The action of the police has come under serious questioning, especially since a man of unsound mind was being followed by the police and had been shot to the leg earlier by them. Questioned recently about the force's use of non-lethal weapons, the Public Relations Department of the police force said there were stun guns in the force's arsenal. However, officials could not say why those non-fatal weapons are not being used. Former chairman of the Police Service Commission, retired Assistant Commissioner of Police Paul Slow, in a social media post, said the incident has pointed to the need for the police to be equipped and trained in the use of less lethal weapons. He said it is evident that if members of the force were so equipped and adequately trained, the tragic incident could have been avoided. Mr. Slow reminded that in December 2021, the government successfully tabled a bill in the National Assembly for the amendment of the relevant law to empower members of the police force to carry and use less lethal weapons. Slow said despite the amendment, the evidence is clear that more than 3 years after the legislative changes, members of the police force have not been equipped with the less lethal weapons.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Oil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Oil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Oil has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into disaster after 4 friends who were all drunk left the bar in the city without a designated driver. Designate a driver. Don't drink and drive.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look. You know the one. Or one touch. Even one word. It can start with one step. Or one promise. One thrill. One first time. One deep breath. One leap of faith. One day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
With your regional and international news tonight, I am Svetlana Marshall in the region. Panama's president has rejected a plan by Donald Trump to take back the Panama Canal, telling his U.S. counterpart the key trade route is and will remain in the country's hands. In his inaugural speech, President Trump claimed that Panama had broken a promise to remain neutral, alleging that China is operating the Panama Canal. President Jose Raul Mulino said he rejected Trump's words in their entirety. The Panama Canal is one of the U.S.'s most important trade routes, with about 40% of all the country's container ships passing through the waterway between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. In the first address of his second term, Trump claimed, and I quote, "American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy," end of quote. He said above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, though the U.S. did not give it to China and will therefore take it back. The U.S. built the canal in the early 20th century, but after years of protests, President Jimmy Carter signed a treaty with Panama in 1977 to gradually hand back control of the waterway, which Trump has branded a big mistake. In 1999, Panama took control of the canal with a treaty in place that it remains neutral and open to vessels of all nations. Hours after United States President Donald Trump's inauguration at the Capitol in Washington on Monday, Trinidad's opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar wasted no time in condemning the previous Democratic administration under Joe Biden, calling it a disaster for the American people and the world. Deviating from her otherwise congratulatory message to the incoming president, Persad-Bissessar made her feelings on the outgoing Biden's tenure known. She said, and I quote, "The previous administration in the United States has been a disaster for the American people and the world. They focused on pushing a woke, extreme left-wing agenda that offended basic common sense and morality, overturned the norms of civilized public life, disoriented and mutilated children, censored and canceled dissenting views, disparaged religious and conservative values, fueled wars around the world, weaponized the judicial system against political opponents, and increased nepotism, corruption, crime, poverty, homelessness, and wealth inequality." End of quote. And finally tonight, international news. The United States will leave the World Health Organization, President Donald Trump said on Monday, saying the Global Health Agency had mishandled the COVID-19 pandemic and other international crises. Trump said the WHO had failed to act independently from the inappropriate political influence of WHO member states and required unfairly onerous payments from the U.S. that were disproportionate to the sums provided by other larger countries such as China. The WHO said on Tuesday that it regretted the move from its top donor country. WHO said it hopes the United States will reconsider its decision. The move sets a 12-month notice period for the U.S. to leave the United Nations Health Agency and stop all financial contributions to its work. The United States is by far the WHO's biggest financial backer, contributing around 18% of its overall funding. WHO's most recent two-year budget for 2024-2025 was $6.8 billion. The U.S. departure is likely to put at risk programs across the organization, according to several experts both inside and outside the WHO, notably those tackling tuberculosis, the world's biggest infectious disease killer, as well as HIV/AIDS and other health emergencies. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall reporting and wishing you a pleasant evening.